Hey guys, I thought I would sit down for a minute and talk a bit about Mythic Plus and how you can improve at it. This is directed towards people that is pushing 15, 16, 70s, that kind of ballpark, and the ones that is striving for Keystone Master, and maybe you're just not really getting it and you are struggling. Obviously in Dragonflight the number will increase. We're gonna have to do 20s now to get the max item level gear, but we will get back to that. For now, let's talk about a few points that I think could be nice pointers for you to maybe improve at Mythic Plus. Okay, knowing your class and role, pretty straightforward stuff to most of us, but there might be new players, so we will address it anyway. For the role part, it's in essence very simple, and I guess you already know that. Tank holds aggro, they lead the charge, healer they heal, and a DPS they do damage. There's much more to it than that, but in essence, that's it. For role choice, for a new player, I would probably recommend you to go DPS to start. It's 100% doable to go tank or healer, but I just think that in lower keys like 15s, there's just less responsibility, or it's not always that it is less responsibility, it's just that the DPS can get away with not doing what they should do a lot more than what a tank and a healer can do, which is why I would recommend you to go DPS first. But yeah, knowing your role, that's pretty and fairly obvious. Knowing your class, however, is a bit different. Mythic Plus is all about dealing with the environment that you have around you, whether that is interrupting a mob, whether that is a tank knowing where to pull a pack, whatever it is, it comes down to knowing the toolkit that you have and using it in the best way and the most efficient way possible. So it's important that before you start pushing keys, you know the rotation of your class, you know the strengths that you have as that spec or that class that you play, and use that in the right way. So I would recommend you to stand at dummies, look online for rotations, and try to learn as much as you can about what you can and cannot do. That way, that's just one less thing to worry about, and if you're a DPS, that will mean that you do well on the DPS meters. So yeah, learn your class, learn your kit, and that'll take you one step closer. Keybinds is, in my opinion, another big one. The toolkit that we just established, make sure that all the buttons is very easy to reach. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as it's comfortable to you. For example, the interrupt button needs to be somewhere that's easy to reach. But that's just an example. I kind of feel like keybindings is so subjective to people. I personally use a MMO mouse, for example. So I use most of my things on my mouse. Highly subjective. The most important thing is that it works for you. But double check it, triple check it, keep working on it, and always try to make your key bindings more efficient than what they maybe already are. All of this naturally takes us into UI, or user interface. These days I'm actually playing on a high-end laptop. This because I travel a lot, so it's just more handy for me to have a laptop than what it is with a desktop. It forces me though to think UI a bit differently because I don't have as a big of a monitor that a stationary has. But why is UI important? Because you need to get access to the information that you need. Let's say that you pull a huge pack of mobs. In that pack there are maybe 2 or 3 mobs that you need to interrupt as a DPS, for example. It's important that you kick that mob. Nameplates will make that easier for you. There's so many things that just get solved with a good UI. Getting access to the information you need as efficient as humanly possible. So look into your UI. Look into many people like Elv UI, some people don't, some people uses this, some people uses that. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as it works for you, same as key bindings. But look into it. Go that extra mile to see, can I actually deal with everything as efficient as possible? Do I have access to the information I need? Etc, etc, etc. Because it's more important than you know, I promise. I would probably say that the biggest thing about Mythic Plus, the biggest pointer, is gonna be knowledge. Which sounds unbelievably dull, I get it. But it's real. It's what it is. It's all about knowledge, whether you're DPSing, tanking, or healing. If you're a tank, you need to know the route. Meaning that we go here, and then we go here, and then we have an invis skip, invisible potion if you didn't know what that was. Or a healer, resto druid, knowing that this is a huge pull, so I need to put up my hots here and here and here. It's all about knowledge. Which ads needs to be interrupted? What do I need to look out for? What is the mechanics of the bosses? I think the biggest thing you can do to improve at Mythic Plus is spending time learning about the dungeon you're about to do. You can YouTube more or less everything these days. Some people like to go in blind, I get that. And you can do that at Mythic Plus Zero or, Heroic. But the reality is that if you are looking at this video and you really want to improve at Mythic Plus, well, then the answer is knowledge. You just need to spend some time looking at what happens in this dungeon and what can I do with all the other things we just listed to conquer that. And usually it's pretty straightforward stuff. Mechanics in dungeons are not really that hardcore. It's just that the higher you go in keys, the more punishing they're gonna get. Same goes for the interrupts. Same goes for more or less everything. At the end of the day, it's gonna be about how you deal with the environment around you. And it's hard to deal with something that you don't know about, right? So once again, knowledge is gonna be the key. Sounds so cheesy, but it's real. A lot of the highest keys timed is all about doing the same dungeon over and over and over and over again. So it's not a bad idea. Do all the things that were just listed earlier. Educate yourself about the dungeon you're supposed to do and your role in it. And then just keep doing it. Doing it, doing it, doing it. And I promise you, you're gonna improve. You're gonna get better. Slowly. The last thing I want to put into the mix is it's not a bad idea to know other classes. Know, for example, the meta classes at least, because there's usually a lot of them. Know what they can do. It's once again about the environment around you and how we can deal with it. So knowing what other classes can do, like Rogue can Shroud, for example. If you're a tank and you get a Rogue pug into your party, then okay, then we can do this route, then we can do this strat, then we can do all that stuff. Is probably not the most essential at the skill level you are, like comps and that kind of stuff. I don't really feel like that affects 15s, but I would try to learn a bit about every class anyway, because you're gonna play with a lot of them. You're gonna play with some rogues, you're gonna play with a druid probably, you're gonna play with this, you're gonna play with that. Learn a bit about them. How do they work? What can they do that I can't? That makes for good, hopefully good communication, and it works for having a few cards up your sleeve, I guess. And once again, like I said in the previous one, knowledge about the dungeon, knowledge about the classes, your toolkit, their toolkit, always useful. So if you want to go that extra mile, I'd recommend you to do that. And lastly, before I leave you, I just want to come back to the whole you have to do 20s in Dragonflight to get the BIS, or not necessarily the BIS, but the best eye level gear. Maybe that demotivates you somehow, but I can tell you right now that I have DPS'd for years and years. That's what I've done. In season 2 or season 3, I can't really remember right now, I started tanking. I had never tanked in my entire life. That was a new thing for me, and I just wanted to challenge myself because DPS was getting kind of repetitive. But I've gotten 2 to 3k rating as a tank every season, and I know for a fact that just a year ago I could not get the same results. So if you're scared about doing 20s eventually, you shouldn't be, because by the time you conquer 15s, and when 15 starts to feel like a breeze, you're gonna get there in no time. I promise you, it's not a problem. I want to wish you all the best luck in the world. Hopefully I'll see you in Dragonflight. And just a little note before I go, the footage you've seen on screen right now is from the Dragonflight beta. I'm in the EU, and there's only US servers up. At least that's what it's been so far. So there's some lag. Sorry about that. Hope this was a bit helpful, and well, have a good one. Bye bye.